Hello, well we're back at it again, and this time we're going to try to build some shoe storage so that way my wife has some more space for all of her shoes. Well, here's the actual product, and my wife likes these because she can put the shoes up and she can see what they are. So what we're going to do is we're going to make something that'll hold 3 of these, and maybe just a little bit wider than this to give a little bit of space. So it'll just be basically a box with 2 shelves, nothing complex there. Well, here it is, and I'm almost done with it. I'm putting the second coat of polyurethane on it. You'll just have to watch to the end of the video to see how I get here and to see what it looks like in the closet. Well, if you end up liking this video, why don't you go to my playlist, The Things I Build, and check it out too. Alright, to start with, I've already customized my wife's closet, and I wanted this shoe rack to look like it belonged there. So I'm going to make this out of maple because all the other wood in there is maple, and that'll help it blend in. Now I don't have a whole lot of room, but I should be able to get 3 shelves, and I'm going to make these shelves 14 inches wide, and that should be able to fit into the corner and also be able to fit 9 pairs of shoes. Here I'm cutting the 3rd shelf for the shoe rack, and I need all these shelves to be the same length. So normally what I do when I need pieces to be the same length is after I cut the first piece, I'll use that as a guide to measure and line up the saw to cut the other pieces. That should ensure I have 3 shelves that are all the same length. I purchased all this maple wood from Lowe's, and this particular piece is a 1 by 12 by 6 foot long. And even though I don't have any formalized plans for this shoe holder, I already had a rough idea of how it was going to be and what lengths I needed to cut. So that way when I purchased my wood from Lowe's, I didn't end up purchasing wood that had a lot of waste in it. Because this maple is pretty expensive, especially when you start to get into the 12-inch wide pieces. Now I'm going to put a kick plate at the bottom of this shoe rack that'll end up lifting it off the floor the same height as the rest of the furniture in the closet. Now before I do anything else, I'm going to take the shoe rack and put it on its side. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I need to formalize my plans. I need to make sure I really can get 3 shelves on this shoe rack. And the easiest way to do that without plans is just to lay everything out on the wood and come up with my measurements that way. The shoe rack needs to fit underneath a dressing mirror in the closet, so it can't be any higher than 24 inches tall. And that's one of the reasons why I chose not to purchase a pre-made shoe rack and make my own. There were too many different variables, and I couldn't find anything that would match what I had already built and fit the space like I wanted it to. Here's the bottom shelf, and it's not going to have any feet. It's going to end up with a kick plate that's going to lift it 3 inches off of the floor. And what I'll need to do is remember that this gets flipped upside down, so I'm really going to need to pay attention to how I put these 2 pieces on. And here will be the 3rd piece that will be the back corner, which will end up making sure that it's not wobbly. The glue takes a couple hours to dry, so the last thing I'll do is I'll end up gluing these pieces to the bottom shelf and clamping everything in place. The next day I spent quite a bit of time laying things out again, double checking my measurements, and I came up with my final sizes. The shoe rack will be 23 inches tall from the floor to the very top of it. It'll be raised off of the floor 3 inches, and that's where that bottom shelf will start. And I'll end up with 6 inches of space between the bottom 2 shelves, and the top will be open. I like to sand everything with 220 grit sandpaper before I start putting things together, because once you glue things together, sometimes it's hard to reach the spots that you need to sand. Another thing I pay close attention to is these labels you'll find on the wood when you buy them from the box stores. You need to make sure you sand that area really good, because if you don't, you'll leave some of the adhesive on the wood and it'll leave a noticeable spot when you go to stain or polyurethane your wood. I decided to cut some of the top of the shoe rack off to give it some character so it wouldn't be so boxy, and I have reduced the width of the top 2 shelves so I can add a 3/4 inch piece of wood on the back and the front. Well, I was careful with the amount of glue I used, and I spread it out pretty evenly, but here is the bottom of the 2 middle shelves, and I'm going to go ahead and glue this in, and I'm using a piece of 3/4 inch thick scrap piece of wood, and that's going to represent the back of the shoe rack. Now I will struggle and move this around, and I'm going to get it glued up and clamped in place, and you can do whatever works best for you with whatever kind of clamps you have handy. And I'm using that square to make sure that the shelf stays exactly where I want it to. Now if you've watched some of my other videos, you know I like to recycle things, and when I have a piece of furniture that I no longer need, I will disassemble it and keep all the large pieces for a later date. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm recycling a piece of wood that was left over from some other piece of furniture I had made. But to use it for this shoe rack, I'm going to need to sand all the old finish off of it, so when I put the new finish on it, all the wood matches. Well, with the maple plywood all sanded down, it's time to get the plywood marked, so that way I can cut it down to the correct shape for the back of this shoe rack. One more quick sand of the edges I just cut, and then it's time to line it up on the shoe rack. And this is where you evaluate the piece of wood and determine which side looks best, the side that you'll end up seeing, because the back of this is going to be up against a wall. But at any rate, I'll put this piece of wood up to the back of the shoe rack, I'll compare, give it a quick once over, and then I'm going to glue a veneer onto the top edge so you can't actually see the layers of the plywood. Now, I got this edging veneer at the store when I bought the wood, and it's in maple just like the maple I purchased, but it also comes in oak. And on one side of it, it's got glue. It's a plastic glue, and what you end up doing is you heat this glue up with an iron, or I should say you heat the whole veneer up with an iron, and then you just push it down onto the wood. Now, one thing that's really nice about the plastic glue is that if you don't get it where you want it, all you have to do is heat it up with the iron again, and you can slightly shift it around. Now, the veneer is just a little bit more than 3/4 of an inch, so you should have a little bit of an overhang on each side, and that gets trimmed off later. They sell specialized tools that use a utility blade to trim off the excess edging, but I have found just taking a sander works fine for me, and that's my preferred method. Just don't use a coarse sandpaper like 60 grit because the edging has a very thin layer of wood on it. I normally use 180 or 220 grit sandpaper. With the edging covering up the exposed plywood grain, I'll go ahead and put glue on two sides of the back and glue on the one shelf. And then I'll put all these pieces together and clamp them down securely. It's sort of funny, when I started making things out of wood, I bought a couple of clamps and thought I had plenty. But realistically, you can never have enough clamps when you're starting to glue things together. Well, when I can, I like to leave the clamps on for as long as possible, but if I need to keep working with something, I normally try to give it at least 1 hour before I take the clamps off. Now, the next thing to do is to add the next shelf 6 inches above that one. Now, I'll start by putting glue on the back and the side of the shelf that's already been put together. Now, if you can glue multiple things together at the same time without affecting the integrity of what you're working on, that's a win-win. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the other side of the shoe rack on. Now, it's cut a little bit long, so it's going to overhang at the bottom, but the top is cut to match the other side. Now, when possible, I like to pre-adjust the clamps. It just makes the process go a little bit smoother. Now, I'm worried about this shelf moving around when I clamp it together, so I'm going to go ahead and use this one clamp, and I'll put it in place so that way the shelf won't move around. Now, the last thing is, if you find yourself unhappy with the work and you want to make some more adjustments, you can always go back and wipe all the glue off. You just need to make sure you do a good job. Something else that can be a problem if you're sort of making it up without plans is a lot of times you put marks on the wood, and after a while you've got more marks than you remember what they're for. So sometimes you might need to go back with some sandpaper and just re-sand the wood and get rid of all the marks that you put on it, so that way when you put fresh marks, they're visible and you won't get confused. Now, I don't know if this is true of expert wood craftsmen, but for me, about the time I realize I've got a piece glued in the wrong spot is after the glue is completely dried and I'm checking it out for the first time. Well, after the glue dries, the construction of this shoe rack is almost complete, but there's quite a few steps we're going to have to go through to get this finished up before it goes in the closet. Well, another couple of hours has gone by, and I'm going to go ahead and get all the clamps off of the shoe rack. The sander has 220 grit sandpaper on it, and I'm going to go over this entire piece and just make sure there's no pencil marks or any glue or anything like that on it, and get it all cleaned up. Now, when you're looking at the shoe rack, it looks like I have accidentally cut one side too long, but I've actually cut it the right length because I need to install some edging around this shoe rack so that way it matches the rest of the closet. Now, after you get the glue on, you're going to want to spread it out, and they make silicone brushes that are designed for this, but I've got a patented technique with my finger where I just pat the glue out, and it may not be the pro way, but it's always worked fine for me. Something else you could do is, if you're working with the wood that has a really tight grain, you can wet a paper towel and wipe that over where you're going to put the glue, and that will help that glue penetrate into the pores of the wood. Adding these strips of wood to the front of the cabinet is really going to help the appearance. It's going to make it look like it's made out of thicker wood than it really is, and it's just going to make it look substantial. This is the same kind of detail that you'd have in your kitchen cabinets. What I'm doing now is I'm taking each piece of wood, laying it out onto the rack, marking it and cutting it as I go. If you had plans, you might have already had all this wood already pre-cut. But one thing I do like about this is everything is going to fit nice and tight because I'm marking and measuring and cutting the wood all at the same time, instead of having a bunch of pieces already pre-cut and then I'm trying to make those fit together. From a design standpoint, the wood I'm putting on the front is 1.5 inches wide, and both the top and the bottom shelf are the same widths as the sides, so all that will end up being flush. The middle shelf is just a little bit narrower, so that way it's going to be recessed from the side pieces. Well, this is just an afterthought. Every time I tap the glue with my finger, I've got a wet rag that I wipe my finger off with before I touch the wood, so I'm not getting glue all over the piece. Alright, the construction of this is just about done. I'm going to get all these clamps off, and then I'm going to take the 220 grit sandpaper and I'll go over the piece one more time, and then I'm going to finish working on where you can see the end grain of the side pieces of this cabinet. And what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to put some more of that edging on it. That'll end up covering up the end grain and make it look a lot prettier. Okay, in case you have questions, it makes sense to put this veneer on the end of the plywood because there's no wood there. It's the layers that you'll end up seeing. But what will happen is on the end grain of regular wood, it ends up soaking up the stain and the polyurethane differently. So what will happen is wherever there's an end grain, you'll end up having a darker, noticeable finish. And that's the reason why I'm covering up the end grain of the sides. So that way when I stain it, everything looks the same. Well, it'd be nice if the sander could get everywhere, but I always end up having to go back and hand sand a few spots just to make sure I get everything like I want it. Well, if you've got an air compressor, make sure you get one of these attachments that you can put on it so you can use it to blow your projects off. It's a great way to get rid of all the dirt and sawdust that ends up in those hard to reach spots. Well, normally I don't like to bring my projects inside to the kitchen to work on them, but it's daylight savings and it gets dark early, and I would like to get the stain on this, and about the only way to have proper lighting and a decent temperature is to do it at the kitchen table. Now I'm using wax paper like you'd cook with to cover the kitchen table and painter's tape to hold it down. I'm using a Minwax stain that should end up matching what's already in my wife's closet. And I've got a blue shop towel, and I'm just going to dip that into the stain, and then I'm going to rub that across the piece until I have it all covered. Well, if it's not obvious, I have sped the footage up so that way you can see me get through this. But because I'm inside in the kitchen, I really am going relatively slow and making sure that I don't have any spills or drips, because stain can really get messy, and it really does stain things. The folded up shop towel really does get saturated when you dip it in the stain. And I make sure that I get a nice good thick coat on all of the wood surfaces, and then I just keep rubbing it in. The goal is not to have any thick spots or puddles of stain anywhere on your project, especially when you have the flat surfaces like I do on the inside. I throw away the folded up shop towel that had the stain on it, and I'll get a new one and fold it up, and then I will go back and completely wipe down the piece one more time just to make sure there's no heavy spots or I don't have any pools or puddles. Then I clean up the can before I put the lid on it. Now I prefer to have a satin finish on my furniture. I don't like it to have that high gloss shine. So if you're going to use a satin finish polyurethane, you really need to make sure you shake it up. I don't know exactly what they put in the can, but if you just open up a can of satin polyurethane and use it, you're going to end up with a high gloss finish. You really have to shake it up well. I'll start by working on the inside of it because it's a lot easier to brush straight down into it than it is to try to have it upright and reach in and get the paintbrush inside it. Now I prefer to use Minwax products as far as the stain and the polyurethane goes, but I'm not using Minwax polyurethane on this particular project because they were out of it when I went to the store to buy some. The final piece of information I have for you is the brush. I'm using a brand new 2-inch wide paintbrush to put this polyurethane on. No matter what brush you choose, make sure it's in really good shape. A lot of times if you use the same brush to do polyurethane over several projects, you'll end up getting little pieces of trash in the paintbrush that'll come off and it'll take away from the finish that you've got on your piece of furniture. Well, this piece should be dry to the touch in about 2 hours and dry enough to put another coat on it after 4 hours. And I will end up getting one more coat of polyurethane on this, and I'll do it in the same exact way. Now the only thing left to do is to see what the final piece looks like. Well, I built this back in 2008, and you can see we got plenty of drawers and there's a place to put makeup on. And then I included a spot for her to put a couple of her purses. And then in the back we've got the shoes, but there's never enough room for shoes, and that's where we ended up with this piece. And you can see I was talking about the mirror. This piece tucks in right underneath it. It's got the same detail on the bottom as the other areas. You would never know this wasn't built and designed to go in this closet when I made it back in 2008. And here you can see the pieces of veneer that I put on the top that help blend it in so it doesn't stand out. Well, there you go, one last look. I am really pleased with the way this turned out. Well, there you go, a shoe rack. Nothing too complex. I covered it from start to finish. I hope you found it interesting. It might help you out in your projects. I have a few more things I've built, but I just haven't had a chance to edit them. Maybe I'll get to those one of these days. Well, until again, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Check out my playlist, and I'll see you in that next video.